to today's Leader Lunch Break Way Forward workshop. We're thrilled to welcome Debbie Berry. Debbie approaches her new role as Senior Vice President of Major Projects and Real Estate Development at Greater Cleveland Partnership with an intensified passion to transform our urban landscape and ensure greater access for all. She's a poster child for innovation in a STEM field. You may not know that she boasts engineering degrees from both Purdue and University of Texas, Austin, and she's earned a reputation as a visionary urbanist who gets things done. Her almost 16 years as Vice President of Planning and Real Estate Development at University Circle, Inc. put her at the center of multi-million-dollar initiatives to make University Circle a more vibrant area with a dynamic residential and retail community. She worked tirelessly while she was there to create a complete neighborhood where all residents were a 15-minute walk from anything they might need. Her recent transition allows her to realize her dream of transforming our lakefront. This was a passion seeded years ago when she worked at the City of Cleveland, overseeing lakefront development and planning for 38 miles of Cleveland shoreline. When she's not reimagining what our city will look like, she dedicates significant time to multiple initiatives that are transforming our community and our landscape, including the Cleveland Metro Parks Board of Commissioners, First Tee, the Foundry, and of course, the Cleveland Leadership Center. She loves living in multiple Cleveland neighborhoods and rowing on our river. And as many of you will attest, she is a proud member of the great class of Leadership Cleveland 2008. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you, Marianne. I just love Marianne. She always makes you feel so great and so welcome. Let me quickly here share my screen, and I just have a couple of slides that I want to go to help make this easier presentation. Perfect. So first, again, thank you, Marianne, and the whole team at the Cleveland Leadership Center for having me today. I'm really excited to talk about this downtown lakefront development process that we are just beginning to embark on for maybe the 10th time. But this time we know we're going to get it right because really everything is in place right now for us to be successful. I want to talk just a second about my team and my new role at the Greater Cleveland Partnership. Marianne mentioned that my title is Major Projects and Real Estate Development. This is a new area for the partnership. This is really part of our all-in vision. And if you want to hear more about that, a quick advertisement. Our annual event is coming up next week, Thursday, June 30th at 4:30 at the Huntington Convention Center. You can still buy individual tickets for that. And we're going to have a really incredible lakefront and downtown panel featuring some of the investments that are being made in Cleveland by Sherwin-Williams, the Browns, and Bedrock. So if you'd like to, please get tickets for that. But our all-in vision, the major projects piece, is really part of our appealing communities pillar. And that is all about population growth and making Cleveland competitive. You can see here the team of folks that we've assembled, really amazing folks to work on this. And we are focused on lakefront, riverfront, and downtown redevelopment. And I'm really going to spend my time today talking quickly about the lakefront. So how are we doing this? We were asked by the City of Cleveland to be the convener and coordinator of a new vision to connect downtown to the lakefront. I think all of you will agree that the lakefront is truly our differentiator. We are a great city on a great lake, but we're not really making that connection to the lake. This is all part of creating a more appealing and attractive community. Our purpose is really twofold as we go forward. We want to connect to the lakefront with better north-south access, especially for pedestrians and bicyclists. And by doing so, also create development opportunities by connecting downtown and the lakefront, bridging infrastructure that has been a barrier to us for so many years. You all know this area very well downtown. This is what it looks like today. Who would want to develop this? Actually, those two warehouses that you see kind of closest to us on the screen north of the Browns Stadium, those don't even exist anymore, and we still are not able to get people to come down and have an interest in developing this prime property because truly it's disconnected. When you're up on the bluff, when you're at Lakeside Avenue, visitors, even residents, don't necessarily feel comfortable or safe getting down to the waterfront as it looks today. So our vision for the going forward will look something like this, certainly not like this. Actually, last fall, the Cleveland Browns and the Haslam Sports Group developed a vision to get people excited and to get people talking and really to get us some funding to move forward. They realize that they have 7 years left on their lease and they're thinking about their future downtown with a focus on renovating the existing stadium. What you see here, if you can see my cursor, is a new idea, a land bridge connection from the bluffs down to the waterfront immediately east of the stadium. What this looks like, how it's put together, how large it is, how much of it expands over the tracks and the shoreway, it's still to be determined. But this is really the goal, is better pedestrian access. And a renovated stadium is one of those key parts of the overall vision for the lakefront itself. So there's really 3 components that we're looking at: the infrastructure upgrades and the land bridge to make the connection from downtown to the lakefront. And I'll talk in a minute, those infrastructure improvements will require us to make some changes to the shoreway. Again, all still to be determined as to exactly how that looks and how that gets reconfigured. This also creates, as I said earlier, major opportunities for new economic development: public parks, office space, residential, restaurants, amenities that again are going to lure people down to the water's edge, hopefully also creating opportunities for people to touch the water itself. And that next generation facility, providing fans and visitors with unique experiences that are now commonplace among all sports facilities around the country, and also the ability to really use our stadium year round. That's been a complaint of people over time, that all we are able to use it for is 8 to 10 Browns games a year. And it really, if there was development around it and opportunity to connect to it, we think it could be far more usable in the future. So how are we moving forward? Greater Cleveland Partnership has worked with the City of Cleveland to develop a project coordination structure. And that's what you're looking at here. Over 150 people are participating in these various committees led by the City of Cleveland under Mayor Bibb. We have a leadership committee that is composed of a number of public and nonprofit and private entities that are working to provide guidance and strategy, and also to help us work on funding going forward. We have an operating committee that's been meeting bi-weekly just to make sure that the project is moving forward and all the partners are contributing, and that we're going forward to really engage the community in a more robust conversation about the details of exactly what comes together. One piece of that is the 5 working groups that you see here. All of these groups have been identified. We're working right now on adding resident voices to those committees and working groups, and they meet on different cadences as noted in order to, again, move the project forward. All of that being managed by the GCP offices and my team in coordination with the City of Cleveland. I don't want to get into all the concepts right now, but happy to follow up with any folks who haven't been a part of this presentation. But the first step is a feasibility study that is underway right now. As I said earlier, we need to change the shoreway in some way to create this land bridge. This is one of the simplest concepts that creates a bridge from Mall C down to the waterfront itself, goes over the shoreway. In this particular example, we're showing the shoreway being lowered to accommodate that bridge over the top of it. But right now, the team of Osborne Engineering and a series of other consultants is looking at the engineering and traffic feasibility of making this connection and making these changes so that we can create better access. They are looking at 7 different concepts initially, from a no build, which would essentially just clean up some of those difficult ramp weaves and create better connections on West 3rd and East 9th, to a much more robust option that looks at actually removing the entire shoreway. Those are kind of the bookends of the study, and there's a whole series of different options in between that extend even east beyond East 9th Street as we look at making further connections from downtown to the city. We also are beginning the process of master planning, and by fall, we hope to have a consultant on board being led by the City of Cleveland. They will take a look at the Browns plan, vet it in front of the community, and really look at past plans to understand what is it that we're trying to accomplish once we make the connection. What kinds of uses do we want to have down here on the waterfront? And how are we making that waterfront accessible to all of our community and the many ways in which they want to use it? So that's a piece that you can expect to go forward more robustly in the near future. Again, I just take you back to this image looking slightly from a different area. These are just concepts. This is not the plan. I know it looks like a lot of significant development on the waterfront, a lot of buildings that may be private, but also a lot of very open public space. And so we want to come back to the community. The city will be hosting public workshops and focus groups starting in the fall once we get this master planning consultant on board, and we have some more information about the feasibility of these various roadway concepts and how we can alter them, what we can actually build, and how this bridge could start to look that makes that connection. It really does take public-private partnerships. We're also looking at peer cities across the country, many of which are doing exactly the same thing, reinvestigating and reevaluating infrastructure that's been in place for many years that disconnects community from important waterfronts, whether it's lakes, rivers, or even some instances where waterways have been created because that really provides the kind of vibrancy and attractiveness that cities are looking for. So again, I said it once, public and private partnerships are really the key here, and GCP working with the business community, working with the private and public nonprofit stakeholders, working with the city of Cleveland, the county, NOACA, ODOT, all of our government partners to make sure that we're really developing a great vision going forward. Everyone is all in, as we like to say here at the partnership. So with that, I will bring us back and be happy to take any questions that folks have.
Debbie, thank you so much. And the vision is so exciting to see what the potential could be. What is the general timeline being envisioned right now to see this vision fully realized?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rachel. I'm glad you asked that. So as we probably all know and don't like to hear, these kinds of visions unfortunately take time. We're envisioning the entire build out of, whatever this plan exactly turns out to be, to happen probably over a 5 to 10 year time frame. That's not to say that we can't do some smaller pilot projects and early phase projects in the next couple of years. The feasibility study that's underway right now, we hope to have some concepts vetted and some ideas of that by the end of the year, early 2023. And we hope to have a preferred alternative as to how the roadway will be reconfigured, what that land bridge is going to look like, and a start of what that development opportunity is by the end of the year in 2023. And then as we pull that all together, we'll be better able to identify what early project wins we can put in place. Part of it, of course, is looking at funding and aligning that with all of the components. So it's definitely a phased approach. I'd like to say, again, hopefully we'll see some serious construction starting in 5 years, but probably likely a 10-year build out, maybe even beyond that.
So I think this conversation is timely given that just earlier this week, there's a lot of speculation going around what the future of the stadium looks like at the Lakefront location. How might that figure into the planning, or what are you all thinking as you hear those potential plans?
Yeah, well, certainly, as we know, the stadium takes up a significant amount of our lakefront, and it, of course, has a significant demand for parking on game days and other activity days that we hope to see in the future. So those are all things that we want to work into and collaborate with the Haslam Sports Group as to what it is that they're looking at in terms of how they want to improve that stadium, how they want to provide better access and better amenities around it, so that on game day, on other activity days, there are a whole bunch of different opportunities for people to come down to and to look at and to participate in. We have such an opportunity for major events. The draft day is why those state warehouses were taken down, and a lot of people were down on the waterfront, really enjoying that opportunity. And we want to see a whole lot more of that in the future. So the Browns are undertaking their own study to better understand what needs the stadium has going forward. And they're hoping to wrap that up and start conversations with the city and other partners about what they're proposing. So it's a little early now for us to know the specifics of what they will need, but we're moving forward knowing that there will be a stadium there, knowing that it will be improved and better access, and also knowing that we want to find ways to, again, tuck the parking in so that it, serves all the needs that we have on the waterfront, but doesn't necessarily need to be right on the surface, and opens up a lot more land for development.
There's a lot of conversation around inequitable access to the lakefront. So as you look at this plan, how are you looking to make sure that it remains equitable and encourages all to utilize the lakefront, but also through the decision-making and the planning process? You mentioned residents coming to the table. How are you ensuring a truly inclusive decision-making process involved?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is that right now the lakefront is inaccessible. You know, people can't get there. We've heard over and over again that people live in our neighborhoods in the city and they've never been to the lakefront. They've never been on the lakefront. They don't realize that there is an opportunity, small, you know, with Voinovich Park and some of the other things downtown. So the most important piece is making that connection so that people feel welcome and understand that there is opportunity for them to get to the waterfront itself, creating parks, creating public spaces. I showed you our series of 5 working groups that we have. One of the most robust ones is a community benefits working group. All of our working groups are now chaired by one high-level director or above person from the city of Cleveland, and then one community partner who works in that space. And that group has already been meeting monthly to really talk about not just the benefit in terms of providing jobs and providing job training and providing opportunities for people to work on these very significant construction projects and things that we're going to have, but also exactly what you mentioned, you know, Rachel, how are we making sure that the things we design and the things we build on our lakefront are open, accessible, and available to our entire community and are inclusive of folks that, you know, need to and want to take advantage of this. So a lot of thought and very specific effort is being put in at the very beginning of this as we start the process, and we'll continue to work all the way through the process to ensure that we're being inclusive.
And a very common conversation when the lakefront come up is Burke Lakefront Airport. How might Burke be playing a part or being viewed in this vision?
Well, so once again, I think we're at a perfect time where everyone is in alignment and everyone is working together with new leadership and new vision. The city of Cleveland is evaluating Burke Lakefront Airport to understand what it would take if they were to consider removing it in the future. They have a study underway right now that's looking at all of the components of what the airport means in terms of our airspace, how it fits into the community, what it would take if in today's world someone would want to decommission and remove an airport going forward. And they're moving that forward to hopefully have answers by the end of this year. So I think that that aligns perfectly with the timing that we have in terms of bringing on the master planning consultant and really looking at all of the opportunities for economic development in the downtown area, also realizing what changes we can make and coming up with a preferred alternative for how the West Shoreway will function and look in the future and how those connections will be made. I didn't show all of the concepts, but one of them looks at access on East 18th Street from the bluff down to the waterfront as well. And certainly if things were different on Burke, that would create a whole new set of opportunities for both how we make that connection and then what you arrive at once you get to that point. So I think we're in a very good place right now to really see what the city study provides us in terms of answers, and then make decisions going forward as to how exactly that plays into the overall planning and development and phasing really too of the lakefront. If the airport is to be removed in the future, you know, we know that isn't going to happen overnight like it did in Chicago once upon a time. These things also take time and money to be able to change. And so that'll give us the opportunity to do additional planning and work it together as we develop downtown.
Can you share any general thoughts or discussions that have been had around mass transit access to a lakefront development like this?
Sure. I mean, RTA is one of the folks that's engaged on our infrastructure and planning working groups, and those are both sort of getting off the ground as this feasibility study is underway, as well as bringing on the master planning consultant. The other piece that's been talked about now and we're investigating is Amtrak access. As many or all of you know, Amtrak currently does have a station on the lakefront that has the middle of the night run to Chicago, which a lot of people have done, but it's not the easiest thing to get to. We've had some meetings with Amtrak, and there is a lot of federal money right now that's being put towards evaluating, improving routes on Amtrak. And we think there is an opportunity for Cleveland to potentially become a hub for both north-south and east-west connections, looking at a Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton line that's been talked about. In this particular vision, which you don't see anymore, but we did have the station sort of built into the land bridge, sort of underground access So again, to allow for parking, to allow for connectivity to those existing railroad tracks that are already there that run north and south. So this is all things we're going to have to look at and evaluate and understand what the desire is of both the state and local government in terms of improving access, improving Amtrak, and investing in it more significantly for Cleveland.
And how will this project, through the process itself, through the products produced, buildings, public spaces, advance the concept of Cleveland being a green city on a blue lake?
Well, we're definitely proposing a lot of green space on the lake itself and providing opportunities for people to reach the water and actually touch the water here. So again, any good plan needs a lot of mixed use opportunities. We need to have eyes on the parks and people down there. And so this plan is inclusive of looking at housing opportunities, office opportunities for people in the daytime, certainly amenities like restaurants and shops and things that are going to bring people down and attract them, but also a really robust park system and improvement. And the plan shows a significant amount, not only on the land bridge, but also just, on the current port docks as real public space. And this, we are working right now with Destination Cleveland at looking at evaluating all of the public spaces in downtown and thinking about how best to program them and make sure that they are working together to best serve our cities and our residents. And so this area, we were originally going to have a public park group that was separate, but we felt it was important to kind of look at the work that Destination Cleveland is leading and look at what the results of that study are. And then this public space should be coordinated with other major spaces that already exist in downtown, like Public Square, like Burke Plaza, to make sure that we're utilizing each space in the best possible way and have a management agreement that makes sense across the public spaces so that it's benefiting the community in the best possible way.
You mentioned for so much of this project, there is substantial funding that is going to be needed. What does funding look like? What are the sources that could play into this project?
So I think we're going to need just about every type of funding source that we've ever cobbled together in the past. And that's the way all these major infrastructure projects are going. We're in a great position, once again, not only with new leadership across a lot of our entities at the city, soon to be at the county, but also we are at a great place where there is federal money that's available for transportation and infrastructure projects. And there is, I think, a new approach and a new vision through departments of transportation of looking at things a little bit differently and being more open to economic development and certainly accessibility and obviously safety, which they've always thought about, but as drivers for changing infrastructure to better serve communities and again, make them more appealing for the future. So we are looking across the board at major investments that need to be made in the region, thinking about the phasing and timing of how those would go, and really working with all of our public partners to try to advocate for and phase projects in such a way that we're putting the best ones forward to have the best opportunity to receive some of that federal funding. There will have to be state funding, likely local funding, and lots of other types of funding put into this as well. But the economic development will also drive some of the amenities and other pieces that get built. So looking at private funding as well as the public side.
You mentioned exploring peer cities. So what cities are you looking to and what have you learned so far?
Well, so interestingly enough, I was on a presentation this morning at 8 o'clock, 5 o'clock in Seattle, and we had a person from their business community speak to our board here at GCP about the removal of the Alaskan Way Viaduct, a major piece of infrastructure that really blocked the downtown area from the waterfront itself. Seattle has a whole lot of piers, a whole lot of, ferry traffic and cruise traffic and shipping traffic all along its waterfront, but it also has a lot of public amenities, and the way to get from the city to the waterfront was really just hindered because of this barrier. And so in 2019, they removed it and have a really massive plan for redevelopment that includes a huge public promenade and public space and connectivity. And a lot of that is under construction already. They're looking at 2025 as their endpoint of all this being built with a lot of funding already lined up. And, you know, again, seeing that public-private partnership of someone from the business community speaking so robustly about their involvement and their engagement with the city, with the DOT, with the Port Authority on building this, I think was really inspirational. We're also looking a little bit closer to home, places like Cincinnati and the work that they've done along their riverfront, changing Fort Washington Way. They've created sort of smaller street and pedestrian crossings and bridges over the highway itself, but yet making that connection and then really investing in the waterfront and programming. And of course, they've got 2 major stadiums down on their waterfront as well. So they present a good example of kind of how this can be done. And then talking with St. Louis as well. Now they have a national park with the arch there, and a lot of the investment that was made on the cap over the freeway comes as a part of improving that national park and its opportunities. But there's also a lot of investment that's been made, you know, along the riverfront itself. And so we're just, it's, as you start to kind of open that can of worms, it's amazing how many cities are re-envisioning their connection to whatever their waterfront is, whether it's lake, as I said, ocean, river. You know, these are really huge amenities that cities and people in those cities want to have access to, want to have amenities on that they can get to. And so I think the list of examples and options is endless, and kind of finding out where each one sits is part of what we're evaluating right now.
What are some of the key risks that you see to project success? And is there something that we can do as interested constituents to mitigate those risks?
I think one risk is timing. These projects do take a long time, and, you know, people change over time. People tend to believe that projects aren't going to happen because they hear about it and they get all excited. And then, you know, and we've had this happen here in Cleveland, and then it kind of just doesn't move forward. So I think, you know, staying connected to the project, staying engaged in the public process, providing inputs about what you want to see and where you want this to go, and just being a part of the process itself. I think the more we can keep people engaged and excited about this, and the more we can build coalitions that support this opportunity, because it is so important, I think, to our downtown and really to our region to have this connectivity and access to the water itself. And people will make that possible for this to move forward. You know, funding is going to be another challenge, of course. These are very, very big projects, and they do take a lot of partners and a lot of funding. And so having folks in those positions being able to come to the table, being supportive of it, you know, telling your elected officials that this is something that you want, even as a regional asset. I mean, this is not all about just the city of Cleveland. We want to really build a space that is beneficial to everyone in greater Cleveland, in Cuyahoga County and beyond, because this is our really one chance for the downtown area to have that connectivity and to be that kind of draw and be able to last, you know, through the ages going forward.
From your perspective on this project, what does ultimate success look like for you?
I think success is a safe, connected waterfront with a whole range of amenities and activities. People living down there, not seeing a series of surface parking lots, concrete, you know, that it's just sort of intermodal, interactive, programmed, and vibrant. And I think that we can absolutely get there. I think, again, the connections are really the foundation of making this plan all come together. And I think the details will be worked out as we go forward.
And time for one final question. How do we stay updated and informed of the progress that you all are making on the project?
Yeah, so excellent question. We are working with the city of Cleveland, again, as this is really their project and their vision, and we are support to them of developing a place, a homepage on their website, as they're working on reevaluating and rebuilding their entire website that would have all the information about the plan itself. You know, right now, I guess the best way to get information or to stay engaged, or if you'd like a deeper presentation, is to just get into contact with me. I'd be happy to come out. We're meeting with one-on-one with lots of different groups and stakeholders, even with some residents. We will be having public engagement meetings, as I said, into the fall. But our goal is to house all of the information and plans on the city's website, accessible to everyone. We're just working with them on timing of them kind of updating that overall website and making sure that it works for the community.
Well, Debbie, we thank you so much for sharing insights and the vision for what is to come for our lakefront. And we are so excited to see this development take hold. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Marianne.
Thanks, Rachel. Debbie, that was fabulous. If this project could function as fast as you do, it would be done in no time. So we're very grateful for the energy that you bring to this, and we look forward to staying updated.